All right. Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to a little live stream I'll be doing with my friend Erica of Instar Gardens. Um, you're going to be able to hear this conversation, but you won't be able to see her. I'm not that advanced technologically. So if you're on YouTube, feel free to listen in. If you're here on Instagram, welcome. I'm so excited. We are having a live chat with my friend Erica from Instar Gardens. She has her own business. And we're going to get to pick her brain about how did she design this business? How did she dream it up? And what have her aha moments been in the business building journey? And really just get to learn from her, both permaculture, but also the business side of things as well. So I'm really excited to be with you guys. If you have any questions, please do drop them in the comment section down below. And if you want to use that comment feature too, that would be really good. And then I just want to say, because you're here, because we are doing this amazing giveaway with the bundle, or I should say, we're doing this amazing partnership with the bundle, off grid bundle, which is available and working now. And I know it can be an investment to invest in yourself and homestead skills and home business skills. I want to give somebody I want to invest in you. So I know how hard it was to make the investment in myself. So if you're here catching this live, go get the bundle. You can use the link in either one of our bios and then come back, let us know you got it. And I'm going to pick one person to basically root for and say, I'm investing in you and backing you and believing in your dreams. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on our friend Erica. Also, if you're waiting in the chat right now, let us know where you're tuning in from because that's always helpful, especially when we're Hey, good morning.
Arden, how are you?
Oh, goodness. You want the real answer, the Instagram answer?
Either.
Yeah. Well, you have a young one, and so you know how it can be sometimes, and we're in this
Yeah.
phase right now where we're, like, repeating a lot of stuff, and the repeat phrase right now is, mommy home," and I'm like, "I am home, honey, I'm right here," and, it's a very different life, the one that she has from what I had, where both my parents worked, and I'm like, "Oh, man," like, I'm here, but it still just doesn't feel like enough sometimes, and that weighs on me, but I am, grateful to be here and be able to do business from home, and so grateful to be able to chat with you and even talk about those things too, because I think those are really important topics too, especially for other aspiring business owners and gardeners and parents out there. So,
Oh,
yeah, thanks so much for taking the time.
oh, thank you. And thank you so much for sharing the real mama moment, because, I often describe what we're experiencing as like we're carving this new path. We're like, our parents or our grandparents didn't teach us the way of like homeschooling and homesteading. And like, so we're just figuring it out and like trying to explain that to a child is crazy.
Yeah, you're like, how do I put this into terms that you can understand?
Totally. I
Yeah.
like to describe it to her as it's the upside down and
Mm,
we're walking away from it because like
mm,
she was in preschool for 2 years, which I regret.
mm,
I hated that. But at the time, I honestly didn't know the benefits of homeschooling.
mm,
And I had my full-time job, well, still my business still that I was building and trying to get to this point now where I could homeschool and support the family. And so, the way I describe those years to her when we talk about it, it's like that was the upside down. And I hated it. I didn't want
mm,
any of that. And we're working our way out of that. And, the Homestead Bundle has resources
mhm.
to figure this out. Like if I had, and I thought this was an old Homestead, the last Homestead Bundle too. If I had the bundle, then I mean, could have saved.
Yeah,
You,
seriously. Everybody wants a piece of mom today, including the cats. Um, yeah, so many points that I would love to hop into there, but I'm so like, thank you for being so candid with that as well. I think motherhood and business ownership and getting back to our roots of these more like ancestral ways of living, it's all so much. It can be so much, and it's so fulfilling and so rewarding and so needed. But I think I forget to give myself credit where credit is due almost of like, look at how much is happening though. And like, look at the generational curses and traumas that you're breaking by choosing to show up differently. Yeah, yesterday
yeah,
was day one of workshop week and day one of the big bundle launch. And I really like I'm a believer and I saw chains breaking off of people. And so I just saw these curses being broken. And I'm just believing that for anybody who's watching right now, like the fact that you're choosing to invest in yourself, even with your time, just to be here and chat with us, like that's doing something, that's breaking cycles. And so I'm so glad that everybody is here.
For sure. Even if you're in an apartment, honestly, like the bundle is $50. It's like the best investment you can possibly make, you know?
Yeah.
Natalie, I heard in the very beginning that you were offering some sort of giveaway in this live. Maybe I'd love to throw another one impromptu, unplanned.
Okay. I love it. I love it.
Anyone in here right now goes to either Natalie or I's profile and gets the bundle, come back here. We're going on a trust system here. Come back here, say you've gotten it, and at the end, I'm down to Venmo or PayPal $50 to one of you to make it a free bundle.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. I love that. Yeah, I don't know what it's been like for you, but I know investing in myself. Just checking on the YouTube thing here as well. I've got two streams going. Um, I know investing in myself was one of the scariest things I ever did, but did you ever hit that point in your, like, journey where you're like, "Wow, I really need to uplevel my skills. I need to uplevel my business." What was that like for you? And, what was kind of that first moment where you're like, "Okay, I've gotta level this up?" Because I've looked at your stuff, I know you. You have an amazing business, you help so many people design amazing gardens. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that and what you do and how you help other people.
Well, it's so interesting that you asked that question because honestly, I think my biggest level up has been this move and this new garden, which is completely
Mm,
different than anything I've done for the past 10 years.
wow.
I mean, completely different. And so the way I started was I knew I wanted to work with plants. I had no idea what that was going to look like. I knew that I wanted to see myself in the country somewhere growing food.
Mhm.
That was it. I thought maybe I could have a little like Airbnb or something.
Mhm.
But that was like the very hazy vision. So I went back to school for horticulture, got my certification in horticultural studies, and then just started a business. I started with this like 50 square foot garden space that was tiny and like pallet gardens and like one raised bed. And I would sell like these, I'm not kidding you, maybe 1 inch by 1 inch dried herb boxes at the farmer's market. Like they were tiny. They lost me. But I was also driving Uber and like hustling that life to try to just get into it more. I worked at a garden center and I was just trying to get in as much as possible. And through the farmer's market, I started getting landscaping jobs. And so I had then started up this like organic landscaping business. And that took me through like 8 years of business. And it grew and we did great. We did commercial jobs, we did rooftop gardens. Like I had a great staff. I had my own like fully equipped van. It was amazing. But it was a lot of work. And it was not what I really wanted. It was just enough to show like, all right, I can work hard, and I can make something happen. And so then around 2020, I switched to consulting to basically minimize my overhead costs, which were significant at that point. And consulting just changed everything. It allowed me to qualify with a bank to get a new mortgage on this dream property.
Wow.
And haven't looked back ever since. The biggest level up for me has been the build out of my vegetable garden. And I'm sitting out here looking at it, so I can show you in a second. But to describe it briefly, I've always done raised beds, and I had the opportunity to get 15 stainless steel raised beds for free. But something did not connect. And since I've moved here, I have been reading more about permaculture, which I've always heard about, but I never really understood. It always just seemed like a messy concept. But since I moved here, my spirituality has deepened. My
Mm.
connection to the land has deepened. And so here comes permaculture, and it's like, oh, these little moves that I make in this garden are going to make a difference. And so, and this will be the best of my answer here, choosing to basically decline the free beds and make my own via Hugo culture, which is what you're seeing right here, in these like beautiful designs, these like symbolic designs. That it still like gives me chills. Like that's my level up.
Wow, I'm looking at that and like those symbols speak to me on some level. And I know it's very personal, I'm sure what they mean for you, but I felt that and it gave me chills too. That is so cool. Good for you for listening and honoring your spirit and like really just tapping in and saying, I hear the land calling to me here. And I hear, yeah, this journey calling to me here. I think that's so important. What a level up that is as well. Just choosing to tune in. That's
I want to
amazing.
know what level up has been. I know that you're leveling up your big worm bin right
Yeah.
now, which I see progress of. But I'd love to know what you feel like your big business level up has been, and
Yeah, you're so sweet. Yeah, and before I hop into that, just to remind anybody who's hopping on, we want to invest in you guys as well. We know as business owners and as entrepreneurs and gardeners, like making that investment in yourself to do things differently, whether it's in your garden or in your business, is a big deal. And so we're going to back two people today, whether you're here with me on YouTube or on Instagram. Excuse me. I think you can comment library and get a link or go to the link in either one of our bios. And you'll be qualified to win. Just let us know you grabbed it. But yeah, to answer your question, that's so sweet of you to ask. Really, like sometimes you get those signs from the universe. Um, I I realized that I was doing the thing that I love the most for free for my friends. I was helping them develop content strategies that was helping them make more sales. Um, Basically in 2021, I said this prayer. I was like, okay, God, I want to make products. And I had been making digital products for a while, like just an ebook that I was like, oh, okay, I'm a worm farmer, so I'll help people with worm farms. And I saw the success in that by selling on another platform, Etsy. And I was like, okay, there's some success here. I didn't understand the full potential of being able to sell it through my own store yet. Excuse me. I actually thought of you this morning as I was making my coffee because my coffee machine broke. I don't know if you drink coffee, but I had to make cowboy coffee this morning, and I was like, I'm just gonna pretend I'm with Erica on her beautiful new property. We're making our coffee over the fire. It's very gritty, but it's delicious. So yeah, so in 2021, I was like, all right, I've been doing this digital product thing. I want to know how to make actual products. And literally the next day, my friend messaged me. She's like, hey, there's this challenge. It teaches you how to make products. And I was like, okay, obviously I have to take the challenge. So I took the challenge and it taught us how to make physical products and sell them on Amazon. And I didn't realize at the time that like Amazon is 50% small business owners, just like you and me. I kind of thought of them as like this big, evil giant, which, they've got their flaws and it's not always my favorite thing to work with them. But I took the next indicated step and kind of through that process, as I waited for the physical product to be made and all the back and forth that goes with that, I was like, how do we up level the digital space? And so that's when I was like, all right, well, while all of that's going on in the background, I'm going to focus on up leveling our ebook and up leveling into a course. And I made a course, and that like completely changed everything for me. That's when I hit my first 10K months in my business, was selling my course organically through my social media. And I don't even have a big following. And so I was like, wow, okay. Come to find out, I chose to up level and up level by buying different courses to understand how do I market my course and how do I run ads and how do I do all these different things. I came to find out I accidentally made my course the right way. There's kind of a process where you understand your target market, you understand what they need, and then like you serve them a lot of value at a price point that makes sense, that makes it like a no-brainer, just like the bundle. It's like, hello, obviously go get it. It's only $50. And my course is actually in there for, I don't know, 75 cents, which is crazy. So it's like this huge value offer. Um, and so really just since 2021, there's been this huge leveling up process of like choosing to invest in myself, buy courses that would help me have the understanding of like how to develop things, how to run ads, how to make products that actually convert. And then I started sharing what I had been learning all of the last year and a half with my friends. And I developed a resource, a digital resource, which is coming out soon, that basically helps you understand who you are and what you're selling and how to put your story in there so that you can sell passively on autopilot. Because for me, the big aha moment was like, whoa, I'm making sales while I'm sleeping. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. So I was like, I want this for everybody. And so I'm in this point right now where, like, yes, we're leveling up our composting system, which is really exciting. I am so excited to have compost on autopilot on an even bigger scale, even easier because the bins are cool, but being able to do like a flow through system is going to be even better, I think, for us. But yeah, I'm in this point now where I'm like, okay, we're going to do homesteading, but I want to show people that we're homesteading and we're also doing home business and that they're not mutually exclusive. And kind of like we talked about at the beginning of the call, like I think a lot of moms believe like, oh, I am either a mom or a business owner, but it's not compatible. And I just feel called to kind of fill that gap and say, no, you can. You really can build a business during nap time with passive income, digital products, physical products, and they can actually fuel your homestead. And you can actually take your homesteading knowledge and turn it into something that helps fuel what you're doing. And so that's a huge pivot point for us right now, and kind of the long-winded answer to like, what am I doing and how am I leveling up? But it's been a journey, and I'm excited to be serving people at a higher level. So
That's so exciting.
yeah, thank you.
Lifetime achievement level up.
Thank you.
Someone on here asked, and I have the same question. How do you make money while you're sleeping? And I'm sure this is a very long answer, but you're offering a course on this, and it's going to be released soon. Is that
Yeah.
what?
So yeah, I think I'm gonna do like a freebie. I believe in testing, so this is part of my process that I'll be sharing more with people. But I believe in testing your offers that you know, am I reaching the right people? So we'll start with a freebie, probably turn it into an ebook or some kind of digital resource, and then that digital resource will become a course. So I currently use this outline. It's just in a Google sheet, and it helps kind of keep me. It's where I keep all my affiliate links. It's where I keep my brand strategy, like my colors, just everything. So I know that I'm showing up consistently for people so they know who I am. Because consistency is really important, as I'm sure you know, showing up and being consistent, but then learning how to automate that so that you can batch your content so that you're not like a slave to social media. But yeah, making sales in your sleep is really about having a product. I personally love digital products because they are the quickest turnaround. And so I think the hardest part is the marketing around that, is understanding who are you talking to and how are you talking to them. But once you know that other person and once you know the value offer that you're making them, you put that on a Shopify site. You can get started with a Shopify site for $1 for 3 months. You pay $1 for 3 months, or each month, I should say. You put your freebie, your digital ebook, your PDF, whatever it is, and then if you start to use your social media as a funnel where you're putting that message out there, speaking to your ideal client, they're going to find your stuff and be like, oh, obviously I need this. And that's really, I think, the most boiled down version of it is like use your social media as a funnel to bring people into your world, show them your offer, show them the benefits of like why this matters for them. And it becomes this no-brainer of like, oh, I really need this, obviously. And then they go and get it. And so yeah, the first time I listed my ebook on my own Shopify site, and it was like, I think it was like 10 or $15 at the time. We made like $2,000 on selling an ebook like that month, which was crazy to me at the time. But I remember getting the little Shopify notifications being like, Tommy, look, like we're making sales. And that's what kind of led me to design the course, because I was like, I can't answer everybody's questions fast enough or well enough. I really need a more comprehensive resource, because as hard as I was trying with YouTube, it just like was not translating. So I made the
Yeah.
course, and then that was like that really. I mean, talk about having to up level my abundance mindset. Like life forced me to level up my abundance mindset because it showed me that abundance was possible. I didn't know. I set the intention honestly in 2022. I was like, can I hit 10K months in my business? That would be so cool. That would really show me that we can fund this farm dream. And then we did it again and again. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to tell people, I have to help other people do what I'm doing. So that's the story behind making sales in your sleep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm definitely interested myself.
Yeah, well, and that's my heart too, is I wanna help other content creators because I know it's such a grind. It can be such a grind. It's like, how do we automate this a little bit, make it a little bit easier? And I think the same principles kind of apply, and I'd love to pick your brain a little bit too about permaculture and what you're learning there, but one of the things that really stood out to me about your book in the bundle, which go get your bundle, come back and let us know you got it because we wanna invest in 2 people. Um, but one of the things that really caught my eye about your the conversation that you're having there is A, I love how you make it so simple. It's like, here's these 9 or 10 points, I can't remember now. But it's like, here are these very simple switches that you can make that's going to up level your garden experience. But beyond that, like, let's not work harder, let's work smarter and actually get more, which I love because worm castings, I've seen them like double our yield around here. So I'm like, oh yeah, let's double our yield by like just adding the right mulch. I love that. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about like your transition from organic gardening to really up leveling into this permaculture world.
This is a fun story. Because, I had this organic edible business for 8 years and it was rocking. Like I was growing food for myself. I was growing food for, hundreds of other clients. Like I was growing food. Things
Yeah.
were fine. But right before we moved, like there was like a 2-month period where we bought the house and when we moved while we were packing, and it was in the dead of summer where pests uh, and illness is the issue, or is the worst, I guess, out
Mm,
of the year.
mhm.
I had no time to spend in the garden. So like prior to that time, I would spend an hour a week, maybe a full day a week in the garden of like 14 raised beds, but usually about an hour a week, which is still a lot of time, especially if you're working. Um, during that transition period, I had like 5 kale plants, which was way too many kale plants. I don't know why I had so many kale plants, but I did. I've completely decimated by cabbage worms. I skeletonized, and but I had no time to deal with it, and I was just planning on cutting everything back and making it look nice and clean for the new owners.
I
So
love
I did.
that point in your book, by the way, where you're like, I had five kale plants, 4 too many. It made me laugh. I was like, oh, I didn't realize you could have too many kale plants. But yeah, that's part of changing the thinking. Yeah, it's so good.
Because part of the bundle, you'll learn a lot about ancestral eating and nutrient dense diet, and you know, there's kale smoothies out there and kale salads, but that's actually inflammatory and blah blah blah. We could go down that, but anyways, all these kale plants, and they became completely skeletonized by cabbage worms, and there were a bunch of aphids, mites, like they were just terrible.
Mm.
But I did nothing, and the most amazing thing happens. All of a sudden, I had more ladybugs on those plants than I had ever seen collectively in my garden
Wow.
before, and parasitic wasps all over the cabbage worms. Like their eggs were right next to the cabbage worms. It was amazing. And so the ecosystem balanced out. Those are beneficials, parasitic wasps and ladybugs. And those beneficials balanced everything out by themselves to the point where the kale grew new growth, and I could eat like the new growth. Like I was sharing the kale with the bad guys. It was unbelievable. And at the time that I was like, permaculture, like what does this mean? Because there's organic sprays, there's organic fungicides and organic pesticides, but the problem is like those fungicides kill all of your mycelium in the soil. Those organic pesticides kill your ladybugs and beneficial bugs. And the majority of bugs in the garden are actually good. They're not even bad. And so my permaculture upgrade book has a list of your most common beneficials. So you get to know the good guys. I think there's 3 pages of them. And so you're less apt to just use a spray, especially like ladybugs when they're young, look weird.
Yeah, they're so creepy looking when they're small.
You would think that they're like a good ladybug. And so all of this to say that I've come away from all of this with gardening, growing food can be so much cheaper, next to nothing. Aside from just like, muscle and physical labor, like building it out initially. So
I printed it off. And I lost the first page, I think, to a toddler coloring incident. But yeah, this is so good. I was going to show them what you're talking about a little bit here. Imbalances
Wow.
exposed, and you actually took this picture of your ladybug, right?
Those are not my pictures.
Oh,
No,
okay,
those
okay. But a good
are,
illustration of what you were seeing in your garden.
that's exactly what I was seeing. That's
Wow.
exactly what I was, because the eggs are important too. The
Mm,
eggs are important. When you see the eggs, you decide whether or not they're good or bad. And if they're bad, you just smush. And
mm,
that's like just smush within the leaf.
wow.
It's easy. And so, like the hardest part is building the garden from the very get go.
Mhm.
And that it's easy. It's just
Mhm.
easy. And so getting to know the bugs, getting to know the soil systems, um, it's like the foundation that sets you up for success,
Yeah, it really
And
is.
it's so exciting. And that's the whole point of the hugelkultur
Tell us,
is
yeah, tell us more about that because I feel like this
yeah,
is such a good metaphor for like life, spirituality, which I also have questions about, but like really, I
totally.
mean, the garden is such a great object lesson of setting a foundation. And so, yeah, tell us like how are you setting the foundation differently this time around because that's so fascinating.
The whole purpose of hugelkultur is that you're building long-term soil health. And why do you need soil health? Because just like our bodies, you will have healthier plants with a healthier foundation, a healthier core. And that begins with soil, light, and water. And soil is like the biggest contributing factor that you can be a part of. And so what happens with hugelkultur is you're doing no-till, so you're not disrupting little happy worm habitats, as your followers probably know, or mycelium, which is literally highways of information. So much so that a tree, mycelium from one tree can send a signal to mycelium to another tree that the seasons are changing, like literally communication highways between plants.
Wow.
So you don't want to till. You want to keep that mycelium intact. And hugelkultur supports that because you're building out a bed with um, with trunks of a tree, limbs, branches, mulch, soil. So it's going from biggest to small. And so the smallest pieces are going to decompose the fastest. And so you've got like the top 6 inches of everything you need technically for the first season. And then over time, all of that's going to decompose. Mycelium is going to spread, and you're just going to have this like massively smart ecosystem below your plants, which are going to create really healthy, happy plants.
So
And
good.
then, of course, there's other things in my permaculture upgrade book that's going to teach you things about little tips and tricks, the little things that you do, like crop rotation and companion planting and stuff like that. But the hugelkultur, you can kind of see in my garden where we've got the logs, and then here we've started the branches. And then let's see, I think right after that, we've done the mulch and then the soil. And so we haven't been able to do this for all my beds because that would be just crazy amounts of work. And this is a crazy garden. I mean, the amount of work for this garden is nuts. But I hope to use it as inspiration for what can be done long term. So,
Yeah.
I mean, well, and in the sense that, I mean, one, there's the shapes, and there's something meaningful about shapes.
Yeah.
We're not meant to live in boxes. We're not meant to work in boxes, drive in boxes, eat from boxes. Like boxes are not a shape within nature. And every physical form in this world has an energetic frequency.
Mm.
Everything. Like everything's got a pH, everything's got a frequency. And how do we interact with that frequency? How do we work with that frequency? That
Yeah.
affects us, and that
Yeah.
affects that's like the whole little world here.
Yeah.
And so tap it into the spiritual stuff that I know that you were.
I don't like you speaking my language. Yeah, it's like, oh, the frequency stuff. I've been so into that recently of just like, wow, we are all energy. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And like, what frequency am I vibrating at today? And, sometimes I get thrown off and I'm like, oh, I just really bumped into some negativity. Like, what is going on? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just had that page open too of like exploring spirituality. I mean, yeah, tell us a little bit about that too. I mean, you've got a really cool thing in here about nature-based meditation. And that is so cool. Like I want to know more about that. Like my background is I'm actually a counselor. I went to school to be a counselor, just like wild confession. uh,
Oh, that.
yeah. And so yeah, and then I was like in spiritual development for a while. And so this is something that I don't really get to talk about, but it's really close to my heart. So I'd
Yeah.
love to hear from you, like, what's your walk been like? And, what, like, how have you grown? Tell us more about this nature-based meditation stuff.
So much. So I love you. I love you asking this question. This is such a great thing to talk about. Um, so, I was raised Jewish, but I never really like connected with religion very much. And I never honestly felt very spiritual until my time in the Amazon
Mm,
after college. And I recognized, I'll come out and just say it happened during a journey with ayahuasca.
mm,
And it was this experience of connecting to God that I've never felt before. But God was everywhere. It was in the lightning, it was in the trees, it was in the snakes, it was in the ground, it was in everything. And I realized how vulnerable I was to it,
mm,
and how I could submit to it
mm.
and be held,
Wow.
by Mother Nature. And so ever since then, I've always found God in nature. And so when I when I moved to this land, I had read some books about permaculture. Highly recommend Mary Reynolds' The Garden Awakening as one of them. She offered some insight into some spiritual practices that you could set intentions with on your lands.
Mm,
And so, for example, meditation. One of those meditation practices was to stand barefoot next to a tree or sit, and try to minimize as much distraction as possible. Close your eyes, practice breath work, all the typical meditative beginnings. But then think about one of your earliest, happiest memories.
mm,
And then once you go there, you have sort of tapped into this very emotionally sensitive place.
mm.
So then you ask the tree, the land, what are your memories?
Wow.
And, it might take some practice for you to feel anything. It might be negative. It doesn't have to be positive.
Mm,
It could be negative, and I think in a lot of cases on land that has been touched by humans, it probably feels a little negative. But you don't have to take it that way. You can just observe that and listen to that, because listening is one of our greatest tools for connection, whether
mm,
it's between humans or between the land. And by simply listening, you are establishing a relationship with your hands. And there's other things you can do to set intention on your space. There's things that different cultures around the world have done, between, drums and percussion and singing and chanting. Your intentions for this land and your plans for this land, you're allowing the land to listen to what you're doing. So you're not coming in just taking without conversation.
mm,
There's like a framework that you're laying
mhm.
for that relationship, and then it becomes a constant degree of communication. Like every morning I come outside and I look at the sky. Thanks to, I can't remember, one of the ebooks in the previous bundles recommend, about light and how that affects us and our circadian rhythms and whatnot. And you can find God through nature by listening and paying attention to the silly little squirrel like gathering nuts, or like the water, or just any movement of the trees through wind. You're listening to all of that, and you might not know what it means, but you're at least listening. And the beauty of it, I find, is that later on in the day or the week or whatever, there will be some connection, and you'll think, yes, this all makes sense. I make sense. Life makes sense. The upside down world doesn't make sense, and I'm worried about it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I'm getting emotional listening to you talk about this because I feel like I'm in a new place in my spiritual walk too, where that all of what you just described is so important, and I think it's so easily overlooked. And I'm experiencing that, um, I guess, a new level of spirituality in my own life where those things are a part of my daily walk now too, and my daily connection. And God is so in every little thing if we'll just slow down to experience it. And I know for me, certainly there have been times where I've just been out in the garden and I know a lot of us ask for signs, but I get so many signs if I just slow down and and look. And in times where I've really needed hope, I feel like God is always so faithful to send a bluebird. And like suddenly we have all these bluebirds that live here around our house. Were they here when we first arrived? Yeah, but now there's like a lot of them, and maybe that's just my reticular activating system noticing them now. But it seems like anytime I need that sign, it's like they're right there, and that connection. Something I think about as I dream of, having our regenerative farm and retreat center one day is I want to find a place where we can practice kind of this closed loop system that we're doing here with our composting and gardening and then eating from the garden. And it's like this beautiful cycle. But I do actually wonder about that. I've always had this thing for trees. I love trees. My daughter and I like will touch the trees around our house and our neighborhood. It's just like our thing. We do it. Um, and I wonder, I'm like, wow, what is it going to be like for me to cut down the first tree from my land and that connection that you were talking about? And I'm wondering, like, how do you navigate that? Like, how has that been for you as you're developing your hugelkultur beds? Are there parts of your property that it makes sense? You have that connection with them, and it's like, okay, yeah, like I'm ready to go. Like, put me in the garden. Tell me what that conversation has looked like with your land, if I can ask.
It very much looked like the book The Giving Tree.
Oh, yeah.
Because, it was, there's a number of reasons to take down a tree. And of course, you want to avoid it at all possible costs. But there are reasons in which it makes sense. A diseased tree that could fall on a structure, that's important. An invasive tree, which you could take down and then replant something native or that produces something. You could do it if you need more sunlight, of course. That is something that, of course, the human needs and not necessarily the tree, in which case I think you can connect with the tree, talk to the tree, use the tree, you know? So we had a bunch of black walnuts that we needed to remove. Not only, we had sick trees and invasive trees as well, but we also had black walnuts that we needed to remove for one, more sunlight, but two, because every part of the black walnut tree contains a natural herbicide called juglone.
Wow.
Oh. And so what we did was we took what we needed down, and we were able to sell some of the lumber. And then we also chipped the rest of it so that all of the pathways are black walnut mulch.
Wow.
So no weeds, essentially, are going to grow in these pathways. And so
my mind is so blown right now. It's like, wow, using nature. So
this
cool.
mulch is a foot thick. So like even if the juglone doesn't like decomposes after some time, like the thickness of the mulch
Hang
will
on.
do it.
You laid mulch a foot deep?
Yeah, basically.
Oh my god. I think shoveling into my garden beds is a lot. Like I cannot even imagine. Oh my gosh.
Been a lot of work, but then of course return the chips to the ground, you are setting a foundation for mycelium, the
Mhm.
perfect place for any kind of like mushroom growth.
So good.
And so, that juglone will decompose in time. But that's how we were able to work it out with these trees.
So cool.
So, what I'm really curious though about, if I may,
Yeah.
is what sparked your spirituality?
That's a really great question. I feel like I've always had this connection. I remember very distinctly this one conversation with my dad. We were parked at this beach called Salt Creek, and we would. I grew up in like a surfing, skateboarding family, and so we'd like swoop in. My dad would check out the waves. We'd talk. We'd like listen to music. We were looking at the waves together, and I just asked him. I was like, "Who am I?" 5 years old. My dad's like, "Well, you're Natalie." I'm like, "Well, who?" But like, who am I though? And I like
Wow.
laugh because it's always been like that for me. Like I've just always kind of been curious and wondered and like had this connection, I guess. And so he kind of tried to explain it to me, but um, my dad had his own really unique belief system. And I kind of feel almost coming full circle for me now, where I'm like, oh, what he was saying made so much sense. But at the time, he shared different ideas with me of like reincarnation, and I was like, oh, does that mean I was Elvis once? And I remember asking him about that. I had all these questions, and so I would hear kids at school say, oh, well, I'm Muslim, or I'm Asian, or I'm Jewish, or it was very confusing. It's like, oh, ethnicities, religions, like it just didn't make sense. And so on my mom's side of things, she grew up Catholic and kind of taught me the Lord's Prayer, and so I just kind of always said this prayer at night. And how do I say this? I'm so grateful for the constructs that exist to understand and connect with God, but I'm at this place in my life where I feel like they're also limiting and can be abusive at the same time. And so I look back on saying those prayers, and I could see a lot of like guilt or shame kind of bubbling up of like, well, I have to make sure I cover everybody. Like I have to pray for everybody, make sure that they have protection and stuff. And um, I like it really touched me in your story about hearing about your ayahuasca experience, which is something I've been so curious about. My husband and I have been learning a lot about psychedelics and how healing they can be. And so, oh, what was I going to say? Oh, that really touched me in your story when you said like you could really feel and sense God everywhere, because sometimes I did find this faith Christianity as a high schooler. I fell in love with a boy. He brought me to church, and there was something about it that was like, oh, this feels like home to me, and there was a connection there for me. And so that's been kind of how I've stewarded my faith ever since then. My mom was Catholic, my dad was like Christian-ish kind of, and then I kind of found my own thing. But all that to say, I think sometimes it can be limiting when we put ourselves in this box. There's safety, but there's also like these limitations and potential for abuse from the powers that be. And so, all that to say, it's always been there for me. I think I'm constantly on this exploration of what does my faith look like? Does it fit in? It's funny you talk about boxes and how they're not really found in nature, and I'm like, here's this box, and I think I'm kind of crushing it right now. But yeah, I'm kind of always asking myself those questions, and I've had these experiences. Yeah, I see some interesting questions rolling through. I've had these experiences that really confirm certain things for me. Like I have had experiences where I'm like, okay, I know that the Holy Spirit is real. He's given me visions and like things that I should never know about other people. But then I do, just to be vulnerable in here, I do sometimes wonder, I'm like, well, how do I say this? I just don't have the right words for it because it's still something I'm processing through. But all that to say, it's like I've had these experiences and I know that that's real. But I'm also having these other experiences where I'm like, I think there needs to be some room for expansion here, and I don't know what that looks like yet. So that's like my story in a nutshell.
That
Yeah,
is so beautiful. I mean,
thank
I
you.
think there's just something about, um, limits feel safe. Like
Mhm.
constructs feel safe, and like information can feel safe. Boxes definitely can feel safe, but um, I think the more comfortable we become with the discomforts,
Mm-hmm.
the more expansive everything can be. And I know we've got a bunch of questions, but this one in particular is really interesting.
Yeah.
But would a psychedelic simply reveal a truth about the human chemical condition rather than objective and independent truth? I think completely that depends on the individual, because we are simply a lens. Like, we're just simply a vessel, like I don't really know about necessarily universal truth, because like, you can't have truth without lies. You can't have light without dark. You can't have like one thing without the other. And as far as I understand, like, the cosmos and the universe is infinite. Like, possibilities are straight up infinite.
Yes.
What do you think, Natalie?
Oh, you're speaking my language right now. It's like beyond what we have, time to cover in a live. I mean, it's probably maybe we'll have our own workshop on the farm one day or something. That would be so fun. But yes, I mean, string theory has been so interesting to me ever since I learned about it. Of like, whoa, the potential for all these multiverses is like, and I think about that too. I follow a lot of abundance mindset people, and that's outside of the box of like my religion of Christianity, but there's something there. And um, it's like so this is what I was trying to say earlier, is like kind of the language that these other people are using is just another way of describing this experience that I know is also true. And sometimes it's like the language is like we're using different languages and different constructs to understand the same thing. Um,
Wow.
I feel like that's what it is. And so, I hear these people say like there's just I guess this is the easiest example I can give, is like there is in the abundance mindset world, there's like a lot of people who will say there is what's it called, a version of you that already exists who has that. Like I have these little sticky notes right here. In fact, I'll just share them with you. It says one of them, desire equals destiny. And that's this idea that the reason that I long for the things that I have right now is because there is a part of me in the universe with God that already had it and is like reaching back to me in time, through time and space, like saying, girl, it's already yours. It's there for a reason. um, Now, if I were to say that in church, they'd probably look at me and be like, what are you talking about? But now if I bring the church jargon in, it's kind of like, well, God is infinite. Okay. Like the God of the Bible is infinite. He's omnipotent. He's all of these things. I'm going to be with him in heaven one day. Okay. Because I know him. Okay, great. So I'm going to be with him in heaven one day. If I'm with him in heaven one day and he's already omnipresent, omnipotent, and all of those things, then I'm already there. Just like this other person is saying, like, I'm already there in the future, having had this experience. So it's like, I'm already there. And this is something that my dad and I used to talk about when I was really little, of like, energy and like spirituality. And so that's what I mean when it's coming all for full circle, because I'm like, oh my gosh, these conversations about energy and like how we're really just bound by space and time here on this 3D plane, but we're like these 4D beings having like a 3D experience.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, sometimes I just wonder, I'm like, okay, I feel like, here we are in this box, kind of talking about the same things that these people are talking about. And so, anyway, I'm so sorry I got on a tangent. I don't remember what you asked, but we are talking about the multiverse, I guess.
It's completely perfect, because like a seed's potential is already within the seed. Like the vegetable, it's within its future existence already. Like, everything is already designed and set forth to grow. And the fact of the matter is that the closer we get to these, I think the homesteading lifestyle that is more in connection with our food, more in connection with the land, and less toxicities through, EMF and nutrient foods. Like, we're finding our potential here, because the fact we did evolve perfectly here. Like, if humans were truly like imperfect, then there's no way we would have survived like 200,000 years of, roughing it in the wild.
Yeah.
So everything is set up for us to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are, you and I connected, doing this, and we're carving this new path, bringing it back to the beginning of the conversation with parenting.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Like, all of this is here for us. And everyone in this live is also probably very curious about all of this. And whichever step they take is individual to their personal, destiny, but it's all rolling. Like we're all just rolling on the top. Bundle, y'all. It's like your recipe, your straight up recipe, like actual plans, like straight house build plan, outdoor shower plan, cow stanchion plan, solar power plan, like literal plans, like your recipe.
Yeah. If it's calling out to you, there is a future version of yourself that already bought the bundle and is living their best homestead life.
One of those ebooks to focus on first.
Yeah.
You're going and you're growing, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I love that you brought it back to the seed too. And I want to be careful because I know we're getting pretty close to time here. But just a reminder to anybody watching, just pop in, let us know you got the bundle. We want to invest in you. We know what it's like to take the leap of faith in your homesteading and your business journeys, both of which exist in the bundle. But what was I going to say? Oh, the potential of a seed. I don't know if you've I'm sure you probably have bumped into this in your journey of like really this quantum discussion where it's like if you walk away from the electrons like do their own thing. Have you heard about that experiment? And it's like the researchers walked in and their presence of like looking at the electrons shifted the potential of what was going to happen. And I just think that's so interesting about like the power of our intention and what intention are we bringing into our life and our homesteading journeys and our business journeys. So
yeah. I mean, 100% to all of this. Like we have so much potential. We have so much opportunity, and the energy we carry, the decisions we make, all of these things matter. Like, y'all matter. Everyone here, it matters. Beautifully, really beautifully. And so, especially in those times where it's rough, like in mamahood, or when you're at a point building out your homestead, or you're not sure, you can like take the leap or whatever. Like, give yourself grace. Give yourself that space to believe in your future power.
Yeah.
Your future potential that's already there, just trying to hold your hand.
You said that so eloquently. Is like life can be so challenging, but our greatest gift that we can give ourselves is cultivating the space to believe, to really believe, and to level up that abundance mindset. And
challenge is an opportunity.
Yes, yeah.
How we take it, It's amazing to see some people that have been handed really difficult cards just like completely turn around. And some people who like can't get past the cards, like every single one of us has control in this like uncontrollable space, It's just the most exciting gift we could possibly think about. I could talk about it for hours. And I think that we're probably in one of the best times of humanity. Like, despite how dark it really seems out there, which is like, I mean, it's pretty dark. It's pretty crazy, pretty terrible in so many ways.
Yeah.
Like, look at what's happening, and focus on what's happening.
Yeah.
Because the more you exit out of that, then the more you are brought back to this, and this is fueling. Like, I truly believe, and I think that one of the reasons why I get so pumped up about talking to people like you and this bundle is because this is fueling the future. Like, this is the next chapter for all these people, like seeing the issues and saying, we got to go that way and changing the trajectory, like it's building up that big bright light, and it gives me chills. Like it's the best.
It's so good. It's so good. And it reminds me of what happened in your garden, of how like everything actually wants to get to this place of healing and homeostasis. If we would just get out of the way, and by making these choices to, invest in ourselves, do business differently, do homesteading differently, snag the bundle and up level your skills, like you're a part of changing the trajectory and really changing, it's almost like removing a splinter or something. It's like there's all of these negative things happening in the world, but by you choosing to show up and be different, it has such a ripple effect on the universe. Anyway, well, okay, we're so close to time here. So I would love to, if you would do us the honor of picking an Instagram winner. And I'm going to scroll through here. and pick somebody from YouTube,
Okay,
that
cool.
would be great.
So I'm picking one from here for me to gift $50 from. So the bundle is free for you. And then you're picking from YouTube?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, awesome. Okay, here we go. Let's see.
All right, I'm just gonna scroll through here and I'm just gonna point randomly. And when I fall on somebody, I fall on somebody. Okay, it looks like Big Sky Homestead is our winner on YouTube.
Right,
Oh my goodness, this is so cool. Just purchased the bundle, ladies. It's not really in the budget, but trusting Jesus and investing in my future. Amazing, amazing. Well, Big Sky Homestead, shoot me a message on Instagram, so I can. I think I actually might have seen you come up on here as well, so we can invest in you and your journey. That's really exciting. So glad you're here.
All right, I'm almost there. We've had a bunch of friends join us, and I'm scrolling from the beginning.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, she's making it fair, y'all. She's making it fair.
It's gotta be fair. It's gotta be fair. All right, almost there.
Some really good questions.
All right. Betnan 7. I bought the bundle, but I live on the river on North Hutchison Island, but I'm looking forward to what God will reveal for me through all the ebooks and courses. I'm going to Venmo or PayPal you $50.
Yes.
7. So DM me, and we can get that rolling for you. And yeah, you're clearly on the path. Like, just like open to whatever and like listening. Let's go.
Love it. Oh my gosh, this was such an incredible conversation. I love how it's like it's just the time has gone by. Thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, I'm so excited to continue to get to know you. And thank you everybody for joining us today.
Girl, just let me know anytime and I am down for it.
I love it. I love it. Our next conversation will be on quantum spirituality. Join us there. Thank you so much, you guys. We'll see ya. Bye.
Natalie.